biggest detriments to people's progress in learning to play the guitar, I have found, is inability to tune it. How could you stand practicing, or your poor mom or your poor spouse who pays for the lessons stand hearing you play when you're not in tune? And this moron's got his strings on the wrong side of the pegs. Three of them are right and three of them are not right. All this stuff adds up to making your guitar out of the tune all the time. Here's one right here that everybody thinks it's cool to have their strings dangling off. Not cool. You could poke somebody's eye out. And when these strings wobble around, they're making you go out of tune a little bit. Let the arguing begin. First thing you got to do is get the sixth string in tune. We'll talk about tuners in a minute. They have downsides. Most people can't get this far to get the sixth string in tune. Get it to where it's just not ridiculously loose and not ridiculously tight. I don't know how to describe that. There is no way to do it. If you have a piano, tune it to an E note. A lot of people cannot even tell when the notes are different or the same. That's a problem. That's where a tuner will help you. But it has a downside. The first note of Day Tripper is an open E. I always think of that song in my mind and tune it. And I'm not always right, but I'm close. You want to get close. Otherwise, there'll be too much tension on the neck or too little, and your strings will just flap against the neck. Once you do that, you want to tune the fifth string to the sixth string. So you play the fifth fret A note on the sixth string and tune the open A note until they sound the same. Don't feel bad if you can't do this. About 25% of the people cannot do this. Leave the sixth string alone once it's in. Don't start tuning back and forth. You get nowhere. I've had guys in my band who just sat incessantly tuning. It's a nervous habit. Grabbing those knobs and twisting them, that's a childish thing. Leave it alone once you get it. As you go down towards your knees on the skinny strings, leave the fat ones where they are. We'll refine that tuning later. Get them close to start with. Same thing with the next string. You tune the D string, which is the fourth, to the D note on the A string, the fifth string. So you're already lost. Do the same thing on the third string. Here's the problem. On the second string, it's the fourth fret. Well, it's actually the third string, fourth fret, tunes the open second string. That's a B note. I didn't make this up. Somebody way back there did, and there's a good reason for it. All your cowboy chords are just damn near impossible without this tuning. So it's made for convenience of the string orientations. Then you go back to the fifth fret again. So let's back us up. Fifth fret, tunes open. Fifth fret, tunes open. Fifth fret, tunes open. Fourth fret, tunes open. Fifth fret, tunes open. Then you might want to do it 4 or 5 times, because as you change the skinny ones, then the fat ones are just slightly out. I'm talking a 3 cents, 3/100ths out. I mean, a little bit. But if you want it right, you want to keep doing it until the chords sound right. That's a whole nother topic. We'll have to just deal with that separately. It's each guitar's different then, so teaching you how to do that doesn't make sense. Okay, now most people are not going to do this. They're going to get one of these things. When I was a kid, this white plastic thing was the way we tuned. I don't remember if that's what I used, but I'm sure I did. I'm sure I used something very primitive like that. Well, that's all we had. The red one down there is the chromatic thing. You could get any of the 12 notes on it, whereas the white things here only have 6 notes. They're the notes of the guitar, so it's good. But then you still have to know which one's which. Then you have another problem. Those reeds, the little vibrating thing that makes the note, doesn't sound anything like a guitar. And everybody, it doesn't make any difference. They couldn't tune it if it did. And it does take practice. So you might not be able to at first, and then eventually you can do it. If you practice at it, well, there's the problem right there. People are not going to do it. So then they made the lower right here, Alice, whatever, they made it to where they told you what string it was by the number. Well, people, if they're not going to learn the string names, they're not going to learn the numbers either. I've had half of the students that I've taught don't know that. The tuning fork is the one in the middle at the bottom, only makes one note, but it's very accurate. Most people, when I say most, a lot of people have it in their guitar case, don't have a clue what to do with it. You got to know what note it is and what note is on what string. That's usually an A. So it'd be on the white thing, the middle one of the bottom row, A note. Again, it does not sound like a guitar, and people just confused. Then they started inventing all these neat things to get your money. Strobo tuner. I would say this is more for tuning pianos, and it really doesn't work that great on that either. You still have to know how to do it. There's a real art to that. Tuning organs, Hammond organs, whatever. Strobo tuner. It was $300 and it was way overkill for tuning, but people used them. They were in every music store. Then you get these clip-ons that feel the vibrations of the guitar. Now I'm ahead of myself. Some of them hear the note from the guitar through a little teeny tiny microphone sensor and tell you what notes you're on. And these are all good things. Nobody knows how to work them though. They all come to me and say, "My tuner's broken." Half the people I've ever taught said, "I can't tune because my tuner's broken." No, you can't tune because you can't tune. It has nothing to do with the tuner. It's broken. No, it's not. I'll show you. And I do it. They come back the next week and says, "It's broken again." No, you're broken. They don't get it. Nobody wants to admit that they're buffoons, but that's just human nature. You got these plug-in kinds like the lower right, and each one has really neat characteristics. That Strobo tuner is the ultimate, but who wants to pay $300 to be perfectly in tune? And just because it knows whether you're in tune or not does not make you in tune. It tells you when you are, or when your instrument is. You can't be tuned. These clip-ons are kind of good because they feel the vibrations of the neck. That's really more accurate. Yeah, it's more accurate than the microphone thing because the microphone's hearing every sound. A guy goes by, honks his horn, the dog barks. It's trying to make sense out of that. These vibrations are basically hearing the vibrations of the wood, the instrument, whatever it's made out of, and that's it. That really helps. All have drawbacks. They all have good points. People love to twist those knobs. I've had guys in my band, I took videos of the band and showed them they were tuning when they were already in tune. That's a nervous performing habit. Okay, more devices here. Clip on, kind of cool. When the battery starts getting weak, they're imperfect at best. Usually it's pretty good though. And then they came out with the ones that you can hide behind the head so it doesn't show that you don't know how to tune. Like anybody cares, or like a real professional couldn't look at you and tell you don't know how to tune. Then there are the ones with a little needle that shows you. And the best one, I guess, yeah, you got it right in your pocket all the time. I mean, is your phone. These things only cost about $5. If you don't have one, you're stupid. I have one and I can tune by ear. I still use it. It's just really good for refining things. I use it to show my students, but it's a good thing, and there's a bunch of them. Guitar Tuna is a good one, or is the one I use. Whether it's good or not, I don't know. It's good. Whether it's better than any other ones, I don't know. I don't have time to test them all. But Guitar Tuna, you can send me some money for endorsing you here, but they don't. So far, they don't. Okay, tuning is a real challenge. The guitar cannot be totally in tune. Totally. What does the word totally mean? Well, I would say it means in tune to open and in tune to every single fret, and no matter what tension, how hard you push the note. Believe me, how hard you push or don't push changes the tuning. If you push too hard, and most people do because they're concentrating and squeezing way too hard, it pitches the note sharp. It makes it out. Your guitar can be in tune open and off on all the frets, or exponentially worse as it gets towards the body. High frets. Usually it's not so much the spacing, because you're talking about, a 1/100th off. They're usually pretty good. There's a formula they use to get it the distance from the net to the bridge, and they divide it exponentially. All kinds of things will cause it to be off. But old strings, if you use old strings and whine about it being out of tune, how many times I've wanted to, well, I won't say, students whining about his strings, he's got them tuned around the wrong side of the pegs, big dangling wires off, peanut butter and jelly sandwiches underneath the strings and stuff. Oh boy, your guitar can't be in tune. Plus, they couldn't tune it if they were brand new. And brand new strings do have problems. For about 3 or 4 days, they are a little bit difficult. I could go into detail, but you're not going to listen to it anyway. New strings will solve the problem for 6 to 8 to 10 weeks, and then they start getting old again. The chord gets stretched, intonation gets off. But any guitar, this is what you pay for when you get a really good guitar, is it will be machined or manufactured by somebody who knows what they're doing. And the discrepancy of pitch inaccuracy will be less when you go from an open note to a fretted note. The farther you have to push that string down to get it to the fret, the more you have bent the string and making it out of tune. Sharp. So people tune open, then their frets are off. Talking about a real slight bit, unless the guitar's junk. It can be fixed. It can be adjusted to be as good as it can be. If you let me do it, or somebody that knows what they're doing, they can adjust it to where it'll get to where there's less problem going from an open to a fretted note. Biggest problem is when you're playing fretted notes and open notes simultaneously. You got open notes that are hopefully in tune, and you push the strings down, bending those notes. So what was open, in tune, open, now is sharp, and it really shows, like on a C chord or E. It really shows when it's played simultaneously with open notes. This is where the problem is. But you're talking microscopic problem, or little bitty problem, little bitty percentages. But it's when you play all those notes at the same time and they're not all close enough, it sounds awful. Here's another thing, it's bad news. A guitar is supposed to be out of tune. Go ahead and argue with me. It doesn't sound like a guitar unless it is. I've used MIDI for years to replicate guitar, and I use it now on my videos. And it doesn't sound like a guitar. It's too perfect. Guitar is made to be out, like real instruments are, like choirs, like choruses of horns, like all that. It's supposed to is not really a word, but you could say that. It's supposed to sound imperfect. Otherwise, it sounds like a computer's playing it. You don't want that. You don't want it to be horribly out of tune, but it's, little bitty out of tune. People make way too big of a deal out of it. Make a D chord sound good, and if it does, leave it the hell alone.